Investigation into the death of Tyre Nichols continues. More officers and now first responders are facing termination or charges. It's what prompted us to look into how training works within police forces. NBC 15's Colton Molesky sat down with police chiefs in our area for a discussion on training. Hey, Colton.
Michelle, multiple officers around the Madison area have told me police training is constantly updated, modified, and adapted every year, keeping up with new tech and advancements in technique. But police chiefs add that the training starts much earlier, even with the job interview.
I was disgusted.
The release of the tapes depicting what happened to Tyre Nichols in Memphis was sobering footage to watch for everyone, including police chiefs like Brian Cheney with the Monona Police Department.
We're not always the experts. We have to be okay with reaching outside.
Following the release of the body camera footage, heads of the police departments in southern Wisconsin discussed the crucial need for well-trained officers.
Critical incident training, crisis management, crisis intervention, trauma-informed care. Those are just as equally as important as firearms training.
Cheney says Monona police are always looking for the latest tactics in de-escalation. Beloit Police Chief Andre Sales says even training for tactical situations, which can involve dangerous suspects, means keeping safety a priority.
Safe in doing what we have to do, and then also making sure the person that we are going hands-on with is safe. So we look at training opportunities every day.
Sales says the Beloit department trains weekly, and each year officers average roughly 80 hours, well over the state standard of 24. Both Sales and Cheney say that training starts with recruitment.
It's important to hire character and train skill. You can't teach somebody to treat a human being with dignity and respect. That comes in their DNA and in their upbringing and what defines them. And so it's important that we emphasize, recruitment and hiring as equally as important as ongoing training.
Now, along with training and hiring the right people to become officers, Monona Police Chief Brian Cheney also noted community interaction and service. He says all of the units of the department and on-demand units for departments in the area have mandatory community engagement each quarter, interacting with the public in a setting outside of typical police work. In studio, Colton Molesky, NBC 15 News.